Welcome to the Masters of Resilience podcast. This show is an exploration of the unseen and unheard stories of adversity that shape the journeys of high performers. These conversations will help you better understand the mindset, habits, and behaviors that empower these exceptional leaders to endure the most challenging moments of their careers and emerge stronger than ever. Your hosts are Ryan Seeger and Mark Phillips. Let's dive in to more.
So we're a year in. Can you believe that? This is just over 12 months since we recorded our first episode.
A year into the more journey.
It's a more journey.
Fun.
It has been fun, man. It's been a privilege to do it with you. And so I think we wanted to spend not much time, just a quick recap of the simplest way to put it is what have we learned? I think that's a little bit basic. I think we've learned a lot. There's this idea of like ingestion versus digestion, right? There's a lot of conversations we've had with some really remarkable people. And I'm curious, beyond just the things you've ingested, Ryan, what has really digested for you? What are the things that are maybe shaping the way that you go about your day or your work or your family? And I think the goal here is to spend 20 minutes just sharing with the audience 2, 3, 4 things that we've digested over the course of the last 12 months.
Yeah. And there's so much to dig into. I think I'll highlight maybe 4 or so things. It's hard to pick them, but I think to start for me, I'm looking at, and this is in no particular order necessarily.
Sure, this isn't Forrest Rank by your most favorite people.
That's
Are you sure?
Right. It's not a power rankings of who's given the most guidance, but because there's been so much to glean from so many great people that have challenged me in the right ways. But
sure,
one of the things that stands out to me from the Checketts brothers conversation is not to mistake movement for action. And I think sometimes we can get very busy as humans, and sometimes we mistake that for like the action and the progress. So, and one of these concepts for me that I think has been kind of resonating, and I've been in a season of life where, obviously things are busy and you're building a business. And I think the last probably 3 to 6 months has required an exorbitant amount of patience. And I'm not a very patient person. And so this concept of aggressive patience, and what I mean by that is understanding like it's going to take time and there's going to be a requirement that's frankly doesn't have a definitive end point, but it's also making sure that you're hammering on like the micro actions on a daily basis is going to try to push forward the end goal that you're trying to accomplish. So that's been something that I've kind of been clinging to, and
it's good. Has that patience been more on the professional side of things, on the family side, or kind of all-encompassing?
I would say probably more on the professional side. I mean, I think when you're trying to build something individually, and then you're responsible in a leadership role as well for various things.
Right.
And I know you're this way, Mark, but like, you want the like, okay, I'm gonna power through. I'm gonna like almost will a result, and you just start to realize, and I've been doing it long enough to know better than that, but it's like this. I keep coming back to the same thing. So. Kind of that, action. My takeaway from that phrase from Ben and from Nate is like the action, almost like real progress. I think can also be, put in that phrase as well. Like making sure that you're doing the things that you can control, because I think the outcomes are something that we try to influence, but we do not have ultimate control over. So I'm trying to make sure like that those kinds of things are the things that I'm focused on. And one of the quotes that also stands out to me, it wasn't on the podcast, but that we read, and it's from Peter Drucker, and it's what gets measured gets managed. And I think sometimes it's hard to measure, like, okay, what are the micro actions? So for me personally, I like to know like, okay, what's going to help me be the sharpest, and like, what's the activity when I look back over the last decade that's helped me get to the outcomes that I've wanted. And it's like, let's repeat those things. Like, there's a time to tweak those things, but there's also a time to say, hey, like, let's repeat those same steps that have really gotten us to a point where we've accomplished some things that we've been proud of. So, and I think so measuring that, like, okay, if it's, hey, I'm taking 30 minutes and I'm focusing on like, whether it's like sales pipeline or other like habit things, like you can measure that stuff. And so I think when you measure
that's good.
I can look back and say, okay, that's something that I know works. And I know when I put in the time of doing those things, I think it's ultimately going to lead to an outcome that I'm going to be proud of. I just don't exactly know when that's going to be.
I really resonate with that idea of, I don't know if it's too simple to say, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. There's something inside of me that feels like if I do the same thing over and over again, I'm not making progress. And in fact, it's almost quite the opposite. And I think you reach a point in a leadership journey where your desire to continue to innovate and take new ground and break things is actually super dangerous to your organization. And what's required of you is to exert that patience, Ryan. And so I'm encouraged to hear you say that. I think it's a good thing. I think it means you're trying to scale an organization and allow the processes. What's the Atomic Habits or the James Clear quote, right? We don't rise to the level of the occasion. We fall to the level of our systems.
Yeah, it's the systems. And
it's putting the systems in place. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I tried to, I hope listeners are gleaning that from these guests, but these are people that have accomplished a lot of big things, which is really cool. But I think it's sometimes hard to digest, like, okay, how do I do that? How do I build a 100-person firm and to 100 million of revenue, whatever it is?
One day at a time.
One day at a time. And so I think there's for sure a time to course correct and make some tweaks. But I think, like, at the same time, like, don't underestimate the importance of the compound effect of doing the things that have worked.
It's good, man. I'm gonna throw one in. The conversation with Allie Brewer was it really moved me. She's an amazing leader, an amazing entrepreneur, now a professor at Booth. And she had so many powerful commentaries and points around failure. But the one that really struck me was, I'll actually read the quote. She was building this, as a reminder, this nail salon that was treating its workers with dignity and respect. It was using organic materials, non-toxic materials. And if you know anything about the nail industry, you'll learn, as she shared with us, that, like, women are dying in these nail salons because of the toxins they're taking in every day. And so just like an amazing business, and then COVID hits. And talk about a business that does not get tailwind from COVID. That is an in-person nail salon. But she said this, she said, it would have protected our ego if we had kept going, but it would have been death by 1,000 cuts for us, for our team, and for our customers. And that is such a powerful and difficult truth to swallow for any entrepreneur, right? Because once you start to build something that brings other people along, right? We have team members, we have investors, we have co-founders, all these different things. All of a sudden, your vision, your ego of what this could be, it has to start to take a back seat. And that manifests itself in every stage of the journey. It manifests itself when you're launching, when you're scaling, when you're kind of hitting that cruising altitude, right? Like, your ego has to do something different. And I would contend, maybe as powerful as any, your ego has to take a back seat when you are failing. Because if you fail and your ego is your most important thing, you will hurt people. You will do things that are damaging to the livelihoods and the flourishing of those around you. And so every day I try to I'm realizing more and more this language of servant leadership is the idea of putting your ego to death and allowing truly what's in the best interest of those around you to be the thing that drives your motivations. And I think Allie captured that beautifully.
Yeah, she did. And I heard concept of shame in that too. Like, I think we have this thing in the back of our mind of, oh my gosh, if I fail, there's like this incredible amount of shame. And I think the further along you get, the further you can get away from that idea.
Yes.
Because I think at the end of the day, like, and I've heard countless other people mention it, not just her, is the shame is not like that's in our own head. I think everybody experiences it, and I was listening to, it was the Ken Griffin episode of Founders, and he dissected again, Ken Griffin being the one of the most successful billionaires, and, like, you go on and on about that. And he said the comment of, and this is again, a billionaire that's accomplished way more than a lot of us will ever do.
Yeah.
And he said, all of my losses are my tuition. And I have the most expensive education in American history. So if somebody like that, I think that's a reminder for me, like, if somebody like that is saying they've had countless failures and they've gone on to accomplish that, I think it's just an important thing for us to grasp and say, you know what, like, I think we need to be comfortable experiencing failure. Not as an end result, we're not comfortable with just settling for that, but, like, I think that's a concept that we have.
I don't think it's a think situation. It's you must.
Yeah, you have to.
And so if you're sitting on the sidelines right now, like, I'm just scared that it might not work. Correct. Exactly. And then go and do it.
Yes.
Allie said it. That's what a line from Ken. Allie said something similar. She said, you cannot acquire resilience through reading.
Mm-hmm.
It's a muscle built only through experience and failure. So Allie, Ken Griffin, pick your person, man.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
There's a theme here. And so if you're sitting on the sidelines afraid you're going to fail, you are going to fail and you should get going. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's important to go through that for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that was actually one of my highlights too. So you hit on it, but I think there's another thing too that stands out to me from our conversation with Eric Jorgensen, fantastic guy and well into the publishing world and business building. And he said, and I know this will resonate with you, Mark, with some of the things you've been doing on Substack and things, but he said, you cannot master the outer game until you've taken the time to double down on the inner game. And I think, it's just such an important thing that I think we're all very focused on, like the outer game of like I said before, the outcomes and the achievements of, building a business or there's a lot of different things to that. But, and then he just recently helped publish the book called Leading to Thrive by Klaus Kleinfeld, which I've read. And in there, he said, continuous high performance is not about managing time. It's about managing energy. And I think like managing energy in terms of like making sure that you are in a good frame of mind and doing the right things. I think like physical activity, I think like managing emotions appropriately, like the mental side, spiritual is a huge one. I think when you're dialed in from that perspective, I think it really dovetails into the success of the outer game.
It's really good.
And I think that's
Eric,
like
that
keeping that in the
conversation
right
with
order.
Eric was so good.
Yeah.
I have felt a high level of frustration over the last 3 months, particularly. I'm in a season of I think I would describe the season I'm in as like coming out of a storm. A mentor of mine said, you're either in a storm, coming out of a storm, or going into a storm. Like that's life. And I'm in this season of like coming out. And I found when I was in that storm, my intensity for focusing on the inner game, Ryan, was very high because I was in it. And if I took a moment off, like I would get pushed off course by the wind. You know what I mean? And now I'm in this like more peaceful season and I'm really frustrated because it is not easy to manage the inner game. The world is full of distractions, little kids, work, exercise, your phone, like the number of distractions that are in place in our lives that pull us away from that and really more externalize our energy as opposed to internalizing it is unbelievable. And I'm grateful for just the perspective to like appreciate that. But I just want to express that to everyone listening. Like that doesn't come easily to anyone. Eric talks about it really articulately, but it doesn't mean that focus on the inner game is easy, right? Social media, television, work problems, email, like all these things are going to pull you away from the inner game. And I would just encourage everyone listening to like, just fight for it. But I use that word intentionally because it is a fight and it is a fight every single day. And I have found that when I'm winning that battle, because you can win when you're waking up early, when you're for me, it's reading the Bible, it's praying, it's meditating, it's just absorbing things that are just greater than myself. Yeah. The experience of fighting comes a lot more easily as opposed to like when you're just kind of discombobulated and launching yourself into the day without really any time to focus on that inner game. So I just want to express that. It's hard, isn't it?
It's hard. And I think for me, like, that's why I choose to get up, well earlier probably than like you would need to if you look at it from the outside. But the reason is because I feel like there's an hour of like, and not everyone needs to do this, by the way, but like you don't need to have some 2-hour priming period of like getting yourself. But for me, I find value in, again, yes, scripture reading. I think there's time of kind of meditative praying, visualization. Like I write down, okay, like what, it sounds cliche, but like what's my purpose and why, and what am I doing? And then what are the, I have like 5 things that are like a key goals or things that I want to accomplish by the end of the year. And like, I'm looking at that every day to make sure like, okay, is what I'm doing throughout my days actually attributing to the things that I'm saying I want to do? Because it's easy for you to just let like the winds of the day like just blow you back and forth.
Yeah.
And it's like,
It's crazy,
it's easy
dude.
to just be like, just too much effort to worry about it. And it's like, well, no, it's actually
Man.
really important, because if you lack the intentionality, you're going to look up in 6 to 12 months from now and be like, I didn't do what I wanted to do.
You're just completely off course. The old adage of, if you're taking off from New York and flying to LA, if an airplane's 1 degree off, you will end up in like Canada.
That's right.
Like this is a marathon. And you got to fight for it. We're overlapping with one another, typical.
That's okay.
But one of my second point was from Eric as well. But it's a perfect segue from what we're talking about there. He said, a calm mind, a fit body, and a house full of love. They cannot be bought. They can only be earned. Now he was paraphrasing Naval Ravikant from his book,
The Almanac.
The Almanac. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's just, this is what we're saying, Ryan, right? Like, there's things in life that you can buy. You can buy a house, you can buy a car, you can buy junk food or whatever it's going to, you think is going to make you, or like a membership at a club. That's not what's going to bring happiness. The things in life, again, a calm mind, a fit body, and a house full of love, like that is the key to life and to happiness. And Naval is such a deep thinker. Eric has really internalized that, and I loved what he shared. And I would just combine that with what we were saying. Like, those things are earned and they are fought for. Yeah. Your marriage, right? A house full of love. It's just going to happen. You have to put in the work. You have to learn to understand your spouse and your children and yourself to be able to, foster that community that I think is the type of home that we all want to be a part of. So loved that from Eric. That's and really again, just would challenge everyone listening, like, fight for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll leave the last one for me.
Sure.
From Danita. And this one, this one speaks to me pretty deeply, but I think she made the comment, work as if the results depend on you. But at the end of the day, trusting and resting that the results depend on God. And obviously we're both, believers and take spirituality, seriously, but I think that's something that, I can struggle with that on a daily basis. Like, it's the reality. So I think having something that, like dialing in the work, but at the end of the day, like, there's this, as Jen Eldridge puts it, like this benevolent detachment, like letting go of the outcome and the results and saying, like, God's got a greater plan than I can, even begin to comprehend. So that needs to be something that I keep top of mind for me.
There's got to be some lesson to be learned from the crying child in the background if you're recording.
Yeah, exactly. That's the life we're living right now.
It's so glamorous. It's so great.
I used to get like, of course, you're kind of like, okay, everyone be quiet. We're trying to do this. And
that goes super good when you do that. This
just goes with the life that we're living. So
it's so authentic. It's almost like you timed it. And I was going to do a different one, but that brings up my last point, which is from the Checkitts brothers. And Nate talked about the co-founder that nobody knows.
Yeah. Love that one.
And how can we not, at every moment of these conversations, take an opportunity to appreciate our wives and the spouses that are a part of being a leader and being someone of resilience. My wife Emily has been, we were at dinner the other night, and the journey of 11 Tribes has been a wild one, full of a lot of places where we should have failed. And I was thinking back over the early, 2020 is when we started. Like, I quit my day job in May and we launched, and I use we intentionally. And there's two things I would share. Number one, when we launched, it was because she sat across from the table and asked me, if you don't give this an honest effort, 11 Tribes, will you regret it? In an instant, I said yes. And it wasn't me who said, okay, let's get it. It was her. It was Emily. And I don't know why. I can't, she can't even explain it. There's just this, there was this trust, and I'm so grateful for it. And then, but the more important thing, Ryan, is there were so many moments, many of them, and I won't get into them, but where we should have quit. We should have, and it was just me at that point. So back to Allie's point, I wasn't doing harm to anyone else. I just felt like there was still more meat on the bone. And so we kept going. But more important than that is when I would walk downstairs after a day of work, because I wasn't going anywhere,
Yeah. Right.
I remember like Emily was so encouraging. She was the co-founder who was there to like lift me up and ask me about the good things in the day. And the day had been horrible. Nothing had gone right. And she would actually force me. She would literally force me at the dinner table to say, tell me one good thing that happened today.
Yeah.
And throughout those conversations, I never felt an ounce of doubt in her, even though the doubt in me was overwhelming. Yeah. And actually makes me kind of emotional to talk about, because like if in those moments she had expressed a doubt, if she had in those moments said like, hey, what are we doing here? You know, like we're not making as much, or I would have called it quits. I would have been like, you're right. Let's just wrap it up. I'll go back and get a day job. I'm sorry. This was stupid, you know?
Yeah.
But man, she just believed, and gosh, I don't deserve that. I didn't deserve that, you know, but I'm so grateful for it.
No, and I can resonate. I think Jenna's similar. She's walked the road, and I think if you're building anything significant, you know, the early years it's tough, you know, and I think if you flip it and you have somebody who's, you know, the opposite of that, I would be, you know, that's somebody I don't want to know in terms of myself, like where that would have led us down.
It's tough, right? It's tough.
It's tough. So I do think the co-founder that nobody knows is such an impactful. And again, for those that aren't married, it's the who, like the support group,
that's right, Ryan.
The community.
Right.
And I think Jay Cousins hit on that too, of like making sure that you have a system that's going to be supportive in helping you thrive in whatever that means. I just think that cannot be underestimated.
Yeah. And just express gratitude.
Yeah.
Go tell them, thank them. You know, I think someone said, or maybe I read it recently, like when you think of someone and like you just have this moment of appreciation or gratitude, like, oh, I'm glad tell them.
Yeah. Text them.
Tell them, why are we holding that to ourselves? You know, you don't know what impact that could have. And so I try to express my gratitude for Emily as often as I can, outwardly and externally to the world, and as often as I can to her as well, you know, face to face. So
I love it.
The co-founder that nobody knows, man, it's
That's
good.
Right.
Speaking of which, it's been so much fun to build this with you, Ryan.
Dude, absolutely. I mean, honestly,
I co-founders of Masters of Resilience.
That's right. If I was doing it by myself, I don't know that I would have that in me. But
it's weird, right? Like we record these things and they like get sent out into the ether, and we don't really know what happens.
You don't know who's going to hear it, but yeah, I think it's been encouraging to hear, you know, kind of the random reach outs or people that, you know, you can like, okay, like people are listening. And I think it's easy to get stuck on, we're both people that want to achieve success, and you can get stuck on metrics and how many listens sure. I mean, I care about that, but at the end of the day, we're passionate about the stuff we're talking about.
That's what makes it pretty easy. Yeah.
That's what makes it easy.
Like this, what's been 20 minutes here. Like this is just the stuff I think about every day.
I know.
I'm putting a microphone in front of my mouth.
The batters around in my head.
I think just to set the stage, this is year one. Year two is now underway. I think we've posted an episode or two that are kind of into year two. And, you know, it's more of the same. I hope for the listener's perspective, they can see the depth of questions I think are getting better. Even as Ryan and I go back and listen to episode one, like there's a lot of there's a lot of room for growth, and you know we have no intention of slowing down. So awesome. some really great guests in the pipeline and some great conversations to come. So grateful to those of you that are listening, and you know it would be a huge help to us. Write a review, rate us, share this with somebody that you think would really benefit from it. We just want this wisdom to go as wide as it can. That's really our only goal in having these conversations.
And that's how we're going to grow. So, you know,
that's right.
Share it, send it.
It's good.
I love hearing from people too. So we'll keep going, because we're going to keep going.
We're going to keep going. That's right. All right, man. You should probably go deal with that crying child.
I got to deal with some kids that are crying. So
sounds good. See you, Ryan.
All right, guys.
Thanks for engaging with this episode of the Masters of Resilience podcast. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a friend or colleague. Stay up to date on all the latest episodes and get exclusive resources at mastersofresilience.com. We'll see you next time.